that double-digit growth.
Ms. McKnight, going back to your parental participation and lack of parents participating in PTO, I live on College Street, and when there is a PTO meeting at Cradle School, you have to walk from about a half a mile away to get to the building. Both sides of the street, it's just packed. And being a school of the arts, I'm sure you've got choral and music programs going on over the course of the year. And that ought to be a way to get parents to a PTO meeting, and if you could find the money, and have a hot dog supper for families before the meeting, it might grow your PTO. It's hard to imagine that the numbers are so small in PTO. I just can't imagine that. But
Why don't you share what you have done?
As far as with the way Cradle does the PTO, it's not actual membership. It's a PTO meeting for all parents, and they generally have a performance, and so
yeah.
it packs the.
I understand.
So I think yours is a little bit more membership.
Right.
Which is a little bit different.
I mean, at one time PTO, you had to pay to be a member. Isn't that right? Didn't you pay dues? Nobody does that now, right?
Yes.
Do they?
They still do.
They still
Okay,
do.
okay, all right.
Well, Ms. McKnight, on the evening I was there last year for that Wright Brothers performance, all the airplanes and Wright Brothers Memorial and you name it, the children were doing it. They were actually serving pizza that evening, and families could get whole pizza, so the whole family could eat. So I will say I think she's interested in any suggestions in that area because they're trying. Something just hasn't taken root yet.
And if you feed them, they will come.
Depending on what.
I've seen it at Mary Potter. I've seen it at Mary Potter, and it works well there too over the years. It just has.
Okay, I think we need to move on. Our 3 minutes has expanded to 15. So, one last point, one last question.
Because you mentioned it, or you didn't mention it, but you did sort of highlight it with an asterisk, and the challenges, mold issues. Are they resolved?
Yes, they are. Yes. We do not have any mold at Creedmoor.
Okay.
Is that why your science quiz jumped up?
Close and in person.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
all.
Ms. Hunt?
All right, we are ready.
Good evening, everyone. So I am West Oxford Global School. As you know, this year we started our year-round school as well. So we have our traditional and year-round school, and things are going well with the year-round school. As far as the academics and what we set forth from last year, in 2016 and 2017, we did exceed growth both years, and this year we still met growth. Although we are a letter grade of a D, I do tell my staff that the D stands for determined, because we are determined to get past that letter grade of the D and move up to the C. We do have our students, we have over 80% free and reduced students for lunch, so that does impact a lot of our students and what they come into school knowing and where we are taking them. So with us exceeding growth for currently 2 years prior and meeting this past year, it shows that we are moving kids in the right direction. We are growing students. We do still have our work cut out for us, but that is a challenge that we are willing to take, and we're putting our best effort for. As far as for last year, I will say that I did have, in the upper grades, I did have 2 teachers, well, 1 teacher left in the middle of the year, in 4th grade, so that did impact my scores. And I also had a 5th grade math teacher that was hired a little bit later than the start of the year. So I was anticipating a hit with the scores. So I know that this year we still have the work cut out for us, what we need to do to make sure that we get our students to move forward. Our fourth grade students did meet the 10% goal in reading, so we were very excited with that because the retesting is very important, and that is what helped to push our students to where they needed to be. As far as our goals, the first goal that we have is in order to get out of low performing status, we would decrease the amount of infractions measured by 50% of the number of referrals that we have each month. I will say with having a new AP from our former AP leaving, I can't tell you exactly the number because she kept that in title, but I did go through all the emails that we were exchanging back and forth from our meetings. We had over 200 referrals. We did have a behavior specialist that has been previously on the staff. He is no longer there with us. So that does impact when you have just the principal and you do have the AP having to deal with the discipline. One other thing I would say was last year that we had a few students that were repeat offenders with that discipline. So the numbers were high, but those were some of the students that needed that more support of what that we could provide for them at the school. They needed that social work piece, and we're so excited about being able to be the school that has the social workers that will be able to work with these students so that we can give them that extra help that they need. The next goal, in order to exit low performance status, we looked at for our math score. We would like for GLP to go from 38% to 43% and 24% to 30% for CCR. We have a math coach this year. We took one of our reading specialists and put that person into a math coach position so that when she goes in and she has been modeling in the classroom, she has been assisting the new teachers in math, and she has also been pulling some small groups to help them with their math skills. And the third goal is in order to get out of low performance status for parents, we would like to have them attend the parent night by 80%. So we are expecting at least 336 parents to be able to come throughout the year, whether it's for our curriculum night, it's for our parent-teacher conferences, anything that we have at the school. And when we do have attendance at the school for any type of programs, I do collect the sign-in sheets and I do report how many parents attend as well and let the staff know what was the percentage for the school. The fourth goal, in order to exit low performance status for reading, we will have 36% of our students to go to 40% for GLP and 20% to go to 26% for CCR. With that being said, it's continuing to work on our balanced literacy, which is the focus for our school, having our new teachers attend the training for balanced literacy, and making sure that our teachers are using the resources that they are learning and being able to provide that small group instruction to the students in the classroom. And in order to exit low performance, by June 2019, the third graders will need to reach at least 70% in their reading for TRC. And the reason I put this goal down as our leadership team discussed was because last year we had 3 brand new teachers in second grade. So there were 3 brand new teachers that were learning the curriculum, that was handling the classroom management, so their scores were not as high. So our goal for this year is to make sure that these students master and get to where they need. And the third grade team that we have in place is a much stronger team. So we are trying to make sure that they grow higher than they grew last year. Some of the programs and things that we use, of course, we'll have the EVOS data when it comes out that's released to be able to look in on those students and pinpoint the students who need that extra support. The SIOP training, as Ms. McKnight said, that we will be having to help the teachers with different resources. We'll also have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club that just started last week, where we are looking at 2nd through 5th grade students, where we target 15 students from each one of those grades, and our very own teachers are the ones who are teaching them. And for the 3rd through 5th graders, we look at students that start at level 2 and that were very close to a level 3 by 4 or 5 points to get them into after school tutoring, where they go Monday through Friday for tutoring, and then the teachers tutor them, and then after that, the Boys and Girls program takes over the program. And that was a grant that was done in conjunction with Graham County Schools. And then also being able to use the Edmonton program, which has been very It's been a great program to just be able to see, because the kids have their own individualized learning path. So as they take the diagnostics, if they are able to succeed in their school, they keep continuing to move. If they're not able to succeed, then we see where the gaps are and where we can start pulling them and doing activities with that momentum to work with them on that program.
Thank you.
Okay, questions, board members?
Ms. Hunt, I'd like to ask a question, and maybe Ms. McKnight can chime in on this too, and anybody else. It seems to me that with that weird weather pattern, 2 hurricanes, and Cradle was out of school for, was it 1 day due to electrical problems or something like that? And when I get up on Monday mornings, or it looks like we're starting over. You know, we made 3 starts basically, starting over, and this is just the end of October, and I'm hoping that we're through, but at least till we maybe have a major snowstorm in February. But do you sometimes feel like Groundhog Day? Yeah, yes. I mean, it does to me. So bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
But we repeat it, we take what we have,
There
and
you
keep
go.
it going and keep
There you
it
go.
moving.
Keep on keeping on.
Yes.
Mr. Peace?
Yeah, you had, second grade, you say you had, brand new teachers, like 3. How many do you have in total in that grade?
4 in that grade.
So only one that has been there for more than,
She's been there for more than 4 years,
okay.
but she has over 30 years of experience.
It just seemed like a lot for one grade level.
Do you have any vacancies?
No.
Okay.
No? Wonderful.
Principal Hunt, I do have one question. How confident are you?
I am very confident. I take my job very seriously. It's not a job that I go to work and it ends at the end of the day. I am there after hours. I communicate with teachers after hours. I meet with teachers, whether it's about pace, about phone. I am,
But
you
how
know,
confident are you?
I'm very confident in my job and what I
In
do.
your team
Oh, very
and in your
confident.
plan?
Oh, I'm very confident in the teachers that I have. I do have 2 new teachers that are new and they are having some struggle concerns, but I do have people who have been very supportive to them as well.
So you like what you got?
Oh, yes,
That's what
absolutely.
I'm asking.
Hey, let me ask you about discipline. That's one of the things that I find with elementary schools are a problem, I guess, depending on who's dealing with it. Kids are gonna be kids and they're gonna bring something new all the time. And I know you said the person that was doing it has left. And so how much of a handle do you have on that, on discipline at your school? Let me ask you that way.
We have a good handle on it that, as I would say, each month we meet. So we met last month and we said they were pretty much still asleep, but they're starting to come out now. It is like Ms. McBride said, it's some of those ones that come from different situations. Like one today that pretty much sat in the office with us all day because his mother came in this morning and said, I'm telling you now, I don't have his medicine, he's yours, and left and said, call someone else. But when we call someone else, you can't get anyone else. So that's our responsibility, you know, that we have to deal with. But some of it is just those students that just come from those, they have just extra concerns from at home that they bring forth to the school. And that's why I feel like the social workers and having the counselors has been very supportive because they need that extra help. And even with us sometimes talking to the parents and the parents asking us, what else can we do?
I'm just always concerned about the environment in which the whole school have to function with 100%. What you do.
Okay, anybody, Ms. Richardson?
Ms. Hunt, can you talk a little bit about having year-round on your campus? How is that impacting your school improvement plan? How is that culture together?
Honestly, year-round has not been a problem.
Okay.
That is That's been a breeze. It's just, they're just a little bit ahead, so just trying to make sure I'm communicating to them when I'm communicating to traditional. Still trying to look at planning options, you know, sometimes the year-round teachers will still come and meet with the traditional teachers, when need be. But, for the most part, I mean, everything has been going well.
By the way, I really like your values
Thank
and your
you.
direction.
Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Would you like your school to be completely year-round?
Oh, yes.
I just thought this would be a good opportunity for me to throw that out there.
Is that a directive to the superintendent, Mr. Peace?
Not yet.
We knew if we would just wet the beaks a little bit to see if the interest was there. It's one of those things you can't explain, but I see Principal Hunt's principal partner in crime back there raising her hand.
And I would say, I think some of the teachers, I don't know if Lauren for you too, but some of the traditional teachers wish they probably would have tracked out and went on that.
How many year-round children do you have, if you don't mind us asking?
115.
And what kind of discipline issues do you have with them? Do you have many discipline issues? Okay, that's right, yeah. So the parents and the children choose to be in that effort, and therefore there's a lot more acceptance and interest because they get to choose. Okay, one last quick thing, just a flat comment about all this. The big concern I have about our school improvement plans in general, not issues, is that the plans seem to be very traditional. We're gonna do an extra program here, or we're gonna do X, our goal is to get out of low performing, so on and so forth. And it just strikes me that we're just going round and round in circles. One year we do better, the next year we don't. One year we do better. And the point of that is that there's not a dramatic change that needs, in my mind, to occur to really change the school. From my perspective in reading these, it looks like we're nibbling around the edges. To fill out a form, that's one that everybody has to use, and it's sometimes more about the form than it is whatever. I mean, this is just me coming, where I'm coming from. I don't think, in the 4 years I've been on the board, I don't think, I can't recall any situation where there has been a dramatic change in how a school is organized and operates, and a dramatic change in performance. And to me, they're fine. I gave up that fight a long time ago. But they just seem to me to be rather traditional. And I wish you well, and I wish everybody well. And I hope we all can get out, but it just, I guess it just, well, enough of it. So I've said my 2 cents. Okay? Anybody else?
I'm thinking, based on what you said, we have to submit these SIPs to someone?
These budget staff.
We have to approve
We
it.
approve
The
them.
board has to
No,
approve it.
yeah, but then, because, in other words, I get more from sitting here and listening to the principals than going through and looking at things that might have been cut and pasted.
Well, that is why, well, one, no cut and paste can happen in this program, so I need to be really clear about that. Not this time.
Watch what you say, because I might pull it out some.
There's no cut and paste. But I can tell you that is why, Ms. Robinson explained, these are living documents now. And so some things may change as benchmark assessments, as, students are measured from time to time. You might see changes in these plans throughout the course of the year. No longer is it that put on a shelf. That's why you can't even print the paper for it. It's online, it's very fluid, and it should be. It should be. As children come and go, plans and initiatives and efforts ought to change with the babies.
As those plans change, do they have to come back to us every time?
They have not historically come back.
At least once every 2 years, the board has to approve all of the school improvement plans.
And what we've done is we brought it to you last year, we're bringing it again. And so we may not have to bring it next year. I probably will though, because of something Dr. Myrick said. That math is changing. And I think the board should be knowledgeable about how that has impacted our school system. So we probably will come back, but we can have a conversation about it.
I think it would be interesting, and I said this last year, that at some point, not necessarily to this degree, do we check back in and see kind of where everybody is and what they're doing. Even if it's just a quick, Ms. Robinson comes back and says, this is where everybody's at.
And if not, I thought there was a mechanism built in that they're already doing that anyway with their checks and balances.
This team is.
There is a coaching component that we are required to do. It's best practice, but we are required to do per federal law. In addition, the school improvement plans are also serving as the Title I plan. So all of our elementary schools and 3 of our high schools have to make sure that they have a fluid plan. It's also tied to their federal funding that they have for their school. So there is going to be checks and balances again there, because if what they have implemented isn't effective, then we have to look at the funding for next year. So we'll always have that watchful eye on all of our schools, but especially our Title I schools.
And I think where you'll see the changes in the action steps, less so in the goals. I think the goals have been set for the destination. How you get there may ebb and flow a little bit.
Did you have a comment?
Well, I was just, do the board members have a guest login for NC?
Yes, it's posted on the website, so that the community.
See them in it.
Okay, one other quick question. The board approves them every 2 years, once every 2 years. Does the board have to approve every year the low performing?
Low performing, I believe.
I believe so.
We do.
Okay,
So
so,
these are the 5. When you vote in November,
right.
you're really only going to be voting on the schools that are not low performing, because we have a few additional steps to take with these 5 schools. I believe the plans have to stay out here for 30 days on the website.
Yes, they will go to each school's website, and there will be a feedback form where the community can provide feedback to each of the schools on their plans, and then the schools will make adjustments to their plans based on the feedback that they receive from the community, and then it comes to the board in December for a vote. And at that time, we submit the plans to the state, and then the state will provide feedback. And then the school and the district can either accept or reject that feedback from the state.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our next
Thank you, Mr.
lucky principal. Good evening, Ms. Curtis.
Good evening.
How are we tonight?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Okay.
All right, go for it.
Well, I sit before you, I think, as the incremental change person, so I'm sorry, I'm not gonna throw giant changes in front of you. BSMS is a low performance school and has been for several years. Again, we're looking at incremental change. We went from the highest D to the lowest D to the middle D, or sorry, to F, to low D, middle D, high. We're right on the cusp. And so I'm not sure, as Dr. McGuinn said, that there are huge things that need to happen. So we are really focusing on knowing our students well this year, knowing our data, and participating in a training process to figure out what's working and what's not. That's kind of an overview of where we're at. We have a lot to celebrate, though. I think people think that when you're low performing, you don't have things to celebrate, and we have lots to celebrate. We've met growth as a school for 3 years in a row. We met our growth targets for 9 out of our 10 subgroups. We met 13 out of 15 of our proficiency targets for subgroups. Our ELLs met their progress goal, which is really important to us because that's a huge subgroup. We've increased our achievement score for the last 4 years, and our ADM is growing. People want to come to Butner STEM. We gained 2 teachers this year. So I'm excited about what's happening in our school, and I think our community is as well. We have a lot to improve upon though. This is where we focused our goals for this year. For growth, we had one subgroup that did not meet growth, and that was our black students. So we're looking hard at what's going on with those students. In terms of proficiency, we met our targets last year for black students in reading and math and Hispanic students in reading, but if we don't raise those proficiencies this year, we won't meet the target for this year. So we're pleased with where we were, but we know we've got to continue to move. We did not meet our proficiency targets for EC students in reading and math last year, so that's an area of growth for us, especially because that's one of our largest subgroups. 20% of our students have an IEP. While we're on demographics, since I know somebody's gonna ask, I wrote it all down. We are 70% free and reduced lunch, 20% EC, and 10% of our students are English language learners. Hispanic students are our largest subgroup at 37%. White students are 33%, and black students are 24% of our population. This is actually the first year that Hispanic students are our largest subgroup. That's been growing steadily over the last decade. When I started at Butler STEM, it was only 14% of our kids were Hispanic, and that was in 2009. And now we're at 37%. So that's a big change for us. And we've had to really focus on how to support those students. We've been using the SIOP framework for several years, and we are brushing our staff up on that to continue to target the needs of our ELLs and our Hispanic students. Some of the things we're really going to focus on this year, again, I said knowing our individual students, so we're going to be having data wall discussions. We're going to have a little card with every kid's data on it. Every time we take a benchmark, we're moving that card. We're in a meeting as a team. It's got their little picture on it. And we're moving it, what's working, what's not, because we've got to be able to identify with individual kids what's working, but also identify patterns. So it's also going to have demographic data on it, so we can see, oh, these are our black students. We know we didn't meet growth with those black students last year. Where are they now? Are we doing the things we need to meet those kids' needs? We're going to be focusing on problem solving, as I said. We joined a network of schools called Schools That Lead, and it's about problem solving. At the meeting that I went to last week to kick it off, they said no problem is too big, no problem is too small. Is it a problem with an individual kid? Is it a problem in a classroom? Is it a problem with a grade level or subject area? We're going to look at the data, choose an intervention, see what's working. If not, start that planning process over again. And then finally, we're really going to focus on math. Math continues to be our bugaboo at Butler STEM Middle School. So our math department is actually starting this week to take the instructional framework that the district is providing us and personalize it for our schools, so we can really talk about what does great math instruction look like at Butler STEM Middle School, so we continue to grow in that area. We went from an F to a D. We know if we don't move math, we're not going to get out of low performing, so we want to focus on math this year as an area for improvement overall. So,
Great.
Butler.
Okay, questions?
Ms. Curtis.
I spoke too much. I didn't listen to my own PD last week that says speak more slowly when talking to English language learners, so I apologize.
You held it for 3 minutes though, Lauren, you did good.
She trying to make your meetings more efficient.
Good luck with that.
How confident are you in yourself and in your staff? and in
I
your
have
team?
the strongest staff I've had at Butler STEM Middle School in my time there. This is my 5th year there. This is my strongest staff. I have 3 openings.
3 openings?
3 openings.
What are they in?
7th grade math and science on the year-round calendar, EC inclusion, and speech.
Wow.
Those, yeah. Help. Help.
Mr. Mims?
It's what, based on the demographics, what % of your staff are bilingual at least?
1. And growing. Ms. Bymere is at Spanish class tonight.
1 and growing.
1 and growing.
Good.
But we know how to use our electronic tools, and we work hard to do what we can. We all have Google Translate on our phone, and we know how to talk into it.
Mr. Mims said, 37% Hispanics and 1 bilingual teacher.
And he works there. He works there half a day.
Half a day.
He's from Brazil, not.
How many children?
That's Portuguese.
He speaks Spanish.
How many kids in the Hispanic group, and just pick them, just do not speak English well?
We have this year, I think, 4 beginners, so that means this is their first year in US schools. We have 3 students in their second year, and after that, I'm not gonna be able to give any real specific data on number of years they've been in the US, but, this is the most beginners we've ever had in 1 year, and they keep coming. I don't know if you walked in our lobby lately and looked up at our flags, but I think we've got about 20 flags representing where our students are from now. It's
Really?
amazing.
Really?
Which school was it that did the Hispanic celebration this past, like last week, they had the posters up?
Understand.
Okay.
Well, let me applaud you for using Google Translate. This is something,
It's not perfect, but.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Ms. Curtis, I have
Yes, sir.
a question. Can you talk a little bit about the STEAM component of what you're
Absolutely.
doing now?
Absolutely. So we're in our first year, and I would say this is more a learning year for us. Our electives, or we call them encores, are really focused on STEAM. So we have art for the first time in 8 years. We have an engineering encore. We have band and music. We have computer science. Those are really focused in the STEAM areas. My core teachers are starting to learn about STEAM and about how they can incorporate it into the core classes. That is definitely our next kind of jumping off point in terms of our professional development. Right now, we are looking to visit some schools to see where it's being done well, and we can kind of create a vision for what that looks like at Butner STEM. My teachers are really creative and adventurous, so many of them have just kind of taken off and said, oh, I'm gonna try this, or I'm gonna go do this in the makerspace today. And we have a lot of those tools, so I'm seeing it take hold, but we don't really have a clear vision yet of where we want to go in terms of how do we integrate that throughout every period, every day. And that's what I want us to figure out this year, so we can then begin training folks to determine what we needed to get to that vision.
So there was a dollar figure that came across our table when it came time for to hire your coach.
Uh-huh.
That's something we need to keep considering for
Yeah.
next year, it sounds like,
Yeah.
to make sure we're still giving you that support.
It is not a 1-year process. I see it as a 3 to 5 year process.
But will you speak to the advantages of having that coach?
Absolutely, it's been great. She's been a great support, not only in terms of looking at opportunities to identify, like, here's where we can do this in 6th grade science. Here's where we can do this in social studies. She's also been working with our beginning teachers. She's our mentor, so she has my APTs and is doing that, which is a huge help for us because it's a large number of beginning teachers to take on. And I suspect it will grow as I fill my vacancies.
Okay, anybody else?
Did you want to ask about year-round? She is our year-round school.
Mr. Keith, would you ask about your round?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Big vote, yes.
I was talking to the elementary principal about the year-round, and I won't ask the same question because I think I get the same answers, but.
Her vibe is illuminating the room anyway.
But I want to ask about the academic success of one year-round as opposed to the traditional.
So we just looked at our at-risk report for the first time the week before last, and looked at the breakdown by year-round and traditional, because I was kind of curious, where are we in terms